Start to kind of gather around up here because you can't really see what I'm doing on top of the table. I'd appreciate it.
That's not loud and
Alright, so everybody can see? This is your standard coil of building utensil. Most of you have probably already used Play-Doh and made coils before, but there's a trick to really getting a nice consistent long coil without it breaking and cracking. One of the things you want to do is kind of squish it out to begin with in your hands so that it looks, well, you know what it looks like. Anyway, once you have it rolled out, you're going to start rolling it between your hands and your surface. Now, you only want to put about as much pressure on it as you would if you were playing with a pet caterpillar and rolling it. You don't want to put enough, if you put too much pressure on it, you're going to push it flat and it won't roll. It'll just go thunk, 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 and it'll be nice and flat. So what you want to do is I'm moving my hands in this direction, kind of in and out as I go. And as it starts getting longer and longer, I move them more aggressively. But I'm not putting a lot of pressure in any one spot. And you can see that it's slowly getting longer and longer, but it's staying the same roundness. It's not thicker on one end than it is on the other. It's because my hands are going like this and pulling. All right, as you start pulling it out, you might see that it gets narrow in one spot, then you're going to want to kind of leave that spot alone and work on some of the thicker spots. There's a perfection to being able to roll a coil, and it just takes time. But like I said, you're not putting that much pressure on it. If I were to roll a caterpillar like this, he would live, he would survive, he would not get squished. Okay, does that make sense? And then you just roll it till you get, because I want mine to be pretty much the same size as that one, I've cut a block and I've sliced through the block so that each piece is about the same amount of clay. So once I've got one that's similar to that, then what I would do is one of these things that I'd cut out, I'd squish it between my hands. And just rinse and repeat. Okay? You want to keep your clay moist or in a Ziploc baggie. Can you hear that going flop flop? That's because I pressed too much pressure on it and made it kind of flat instead of round. So I need to fix that. So basically it's your coil rolling. Anybody have any questions about coil rolling? All right. This one's a little bit more clay. If I get it down to the diameter that I have those, it's going to be a lot longer, which is fine. All right, once I have my coils rolled out, in your coil pot, you're going to take one of your coils. Now when you attach one piece of clay to another piece of clay, you can't just stick it together. It's kind of like me taking my two hands like this together, but then what clay does is when it dries, it shrinks. So if something shrinks and it's not attached, it's just going to pull apart. So we need to take and I will get more tools. This is a needle tool, and this is what you normally would use, just what we call slip, which is getting it wet, putting slip or slidey stuff on it, and then scoring it, which is making little marks along the coil itself. Some people say, oh, you can get away without it, but you know what, I've seen so many pieces fall apart that people have made because they have not taken the time to put the moisture on it and to score it. And what you're doing is you're just making little marks along it. Well, when you're attaching it, you're putting the clay together like this, so that when it shrinks, it's not going to pull apart. Okay? So, now that I've got it, I'm going to coil it up into what's going to be the base of my pot, making sure that those score marks are on there. I can flatten it out a little bit. Now I'm going to put this is the base of my pot. I'm going to add clay to this top part of it, so I've got to score it. So each little piece that you add on there, you need to rough up. There's no You don't have to be meticulous and have these perfect little marks, but you do have to have them there. When you're building sculptures or anything, anytime you're attaching one piece of clay to another piece of clay, you need to rough up the surfaces that you're, and I put my slip, or actually this is just water. I have slip that I make up, it's clay and vinegar. Anybody allergic to vinegar? And then you squirt a little of that alongside the seams. So then I just start to build up my clay pot by going on top. And I go around. I build it up like this. Making sure that it's nice and round. And then I just rinse and repeat, do another coil. It seems simple enough? All right, so everybody's gonna get some clay, so go ahead, get yourself a clay board.